Okay, in this problem it says 9 less than 3 times the number y is 57, and I want to write an equation from that phrase and then solve for that variable y. Alright, so first it says 9 less than 3 times a number y. So what would 3 times a number y be? Well, that would be 3 times y. Okay, now if I want 9 less than that, I want 9 less than that. Well, I would start with this, and if I want 9 less than this, I got to take 9 away from that. And so that's going to be 3y minus 9. Here's the word is. In math, that means equals, so I have this all equal to 57. So 3y minus 9 equals 57 would be my equation. Now let's solve the equation. I see no parentheses. Do you have like terms? On the left side you got a y term and a constant. Those are not like. After you look left, then you look right. On the right side you only have one term, so you can't add it with anything else. Step 3, is your variable on one side of the equation? I have a y over here. Do I have a y over here? No, I don't. So y is already on one side. It's on the left side. And if my y, my variable, is on the left side, I get all the numbers on the right side. So how do you move this negative 9 to the other side? Well, you would do the inverse operation of subtraction, which is addition. I would add 9 to both sides. So what happens here is these negative 9's cancel because, or negative 9 plus 9 is 0. So you're left with this term right here, 3y. I'm going to bring it down. Bring your equal sign down. 57 plus 9, I know that is 63. Final step, solve for y. 3y, of course, means multiplication, and I know division undoes multiplication. So I divide both sides by 3, and y is equal to 63 divided by 3, which is 21. So y is equal to 21. Okay, next problem says Marion High School bought $800 worth of basketball equipment plus uniforms costing $49.90 each. If the school paid $1,299 altogether, how many uniforms were purchased? So first, let's write an equation to help us solve this problem. So the school bought $800 worth of basketball equipment. So we paid $800. We bought $800 in equipment, and then the problem says plus. So on top of that $800 plus, they bought uniforms costing $49.90 each. So I'm paying $49.90 for each uniform, or times the number of uniforms, which we don't know. So let's just call it the variable x. X will represent the number of uniforms. So let's say we had 6 uniforms. I would take 6 times 49.90, and that would give me the cost for the uniforms. Or if I had 13 uniforms, I would take 13 times 49.90, and that would give me the cost of the uniform. So basically x is the number of uniforms, which I don't know what that is. That's why I'm using a variable. But the key word here is each, which lets me know I'm taking the 49.90 and multiplying it by the number of uniforms that I have. Now all of this adds up to a total cost of how much? What does it say in the problem? The school paid how much for all of this? Well, it says $1,299. So here's my equation, right? $800 worth of equipment plus this much in uniforms for a total cost of this. My variable x is on the left side. I'm going to move the 800 to the other side by subtracting 800 so that these 800s cancel on the left side. So I'm left with, on the left side of the equation, just this term, 49.90x equals 1,299 minus 800, which is 499. Okay, now here I could divide both sides by 49.90, and that would give me the answer. Or I could say 49.90 times what number, because that's what this is, right? This is multiplication. 49.90 times some number equals 499. Well, look here. If the decimal is right here, and I would move the decimal one place to the right, wouldn't it now be 499.0, which is 499? So what can I multiply this number by so that I move the decimal one place to the right? Well, what if I multiply by 10? Isn't multiplying by 10 the same thing as moving the decimal one place to the right? It is, isn't it? So I take 49.90 times 10, that would give me 499. So this unknown number right here must be 10. And that unknown number x is the number of uniforms. So we bought 10 uniforms. 10 uniforms. So be sure we know that moving the decimal one place to the right is the same thing as multiplying by 10. You might see an equation similar to this on the test. So I would be heads up for that. Next question. It says 1/3 x minus 1/2 x equals -7. Okay, question, ask yourself, do you see parentheses? No, I don't. Step 2, are there like terms? Yes, there are. Right here I have x terms. I'm looking left. These are both x terms. So what is 1/3 x minus 1/2 x? Well, to be able to add these together, since we're adding fractions, we have to have a common denominator. And so what is a common denominator between 3 and 2? Well, you should say 6, right? So 1/3 is the same thing as 3/6, right? Nope, that's not right. 1/3 x is the same thing as 2/6 x, right? How did I get that? Well, I took this denominator 3 and multiplied it by 2 to get 6. And if you multiply the bottom of the fraction by 2, you multiply the top of the fraction by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. So 1/3 x is the same thing as 2/6 x. Okay, what about -1/2? How would you have it with a denominator of 6? Well, 2 times what is 6? That would be 3. So you multiply the top by 3 also. 1 times 3 is 3, right? Isn't 1/2 the same thing as 3/6? Yes, it is. So what I did here is basically wrote these terms with a common denominator of 6 in this case. Okay, so now here's my equation. I'm going to put these terms in the same shape because they are like terms. So if I have 2/6 minus 3/6, that would be -1/6. Keep the variable x. This is all equal to -7. Now remember, we've talked about before that this negative sign can be written out front like this. It can be written in the top like this, or it can be written in the bottom like this. Okay, when solving an equation, I would suggest putting it in the bottom in the denominator. That way it'll save you an extra step in the end. Now, if you were to solve for x right here, you could say, okay, I want to divide by -1/6, and that would be right. But in a previous video, we talked about dividing by 1/6 is the same thing as multiplying by 6. And so what I could say here is I'm going to multiply both sides by this denominator, which is -6. I'm going to multiply this side by -6 and this side by -6. Okay, when I do that, this is like -6/1. What happens here is you have -6 in the top and -6 in the bottom. So we could say these cross simplify. This is the same thing as 1/1, right? -6 over -6, that's 1. So now you have, this is 1 times 1. And 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times x is x. So x is equal to -7 times -6, which would be a positive 42, right? So x is positive 42.